Welcome to the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Ado. This is your thought leadership program that brings you insights from the work and lives of men and women who have scaled the daunting heights of starting their own businesses or managing institutions, both here at home and around the world. My guest today is a man who is very well known to a lot of Ghanaians, and if you don't know him, then you're showing that we've come a long way. But he's a household name every time you talk about technology. He started arguably one of the first computer training schools in the country. He's dabbled in music. He's gone back to music. Currently works with Soft Tribe. You know him as David Bolton, but we all know him also as DKB. David Kwamena Bolton, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So the first time I heard about you was in the late 90s. News story about a computer whiz kid of Ghanaian and the Scottish origin, come from the UK. How did that fame, being heralded on your return to Ghana, how did you handle that?
The funny thing is, for some strange reason, I took it all in my stride, because I had been in the UK. I'd started a business when I was 14, so this was in the late 1980s, and I'd gotten a lot of press coverage, and it got to a point where I was spending more time on television and radio than actually doing
the work you started, right?
And I was still in school at the same time. So when I came to Ghana, the whole level, the buzz, it was amazing. It was amazing. But at the same time, I felt like I had come home. Because when I was in the UK, even though my dad is Scottish, my mother is Ghanaian. And, in those times, there was a lot of racism, in the UK. I remember I was the only black kid in my school, in primary, both primary and secondary school. So I always felt like a bit of an outcast. So when I came to Ghana and I met all my uncles, aunties and cousins and everything, I felt, I'm home, So that was one of the main reasons why I decided to move from the UK and then settle in Ghana.
So you did enjoy quite some fame, both in the UK and here. How did the UK bit start? How did you come to the knowledge of the entire country?
Well, at that time, this was before the internet, of course.
Yeah.
So at that time, they had just started releasing what we called then PCs, personal computers. Before that, it was mainframe systems and so on. So my father had bought me a second-hand computer for my 9th birthday. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Sinclair. There was this Sinclair
was that before Alan Sugar's?
Oh, way before Sugar.
Way before Sugar.
Yeah, way before Sugar. So Sinclair had what we call the ZX81.
Wow.
It's a tiny computer which had 2 kilobytes of memory.
2 kilobytes.
2 kilobytes.
Okay. 2
right?
kilobytes of memory.
And 2 kilobytes is about one typed A4 sheet of
text.
Of text, yeah. So that was the entire memory of the machine. And even with that, there was a lot you could do. It was fine. It was maybe a glorified calculator, but the concepts of programming and so on, I learnt through that. And then I upgraded from a 2 kilobyte machine to a 16 kilobyte machine.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, a huge jump. So and then I kept on upgrading myself, learn just playing around and practicing, making games, trying to, do all sorts of things. And they used to have these magazines that came out monthly, where you had pages and pages of coding. So you actually had to type it out, and then invariably there would be lots of syntax errors and mistakes in the magazine.
Okay.
So you have to work out where the problems were, and correct it. And that's
so
how
you were learning how to code inadvertently.
Yeah. And at that time there was nothing like computer training. There were no IT courses really out there at that point. This was probably the mid 80s. And so from there, my father is a jack of all trades. You know, he can build a house. He's a mason. He's an electrician, plumber. His father was actually a quantity surveyor.
Right.
So he taught all of his children all the various disciplines when it came to construction and so on. So he ended up doing a lot of odd jobs for family, friends, and so on. And a few of them ran their own businesses. And at that time, there were spreadsheets. That was when spreadsheets first came out. Excel wasn't around.
That's right.
You know, Microsoft wasn't even around at that point. He was probably Bill Gates was probably still in his garage. You know,
tinkering with
MS-DOS. Yeah. So there was a program called Lotus 123.
I remember Lotus.
Yeah. So in its earliest versions, so people started realizing you could use it for cash flow projections, forecasts, and all sorts of things. So my father's friends would then basically ask me to work out these spreadsheets and design them. And then I started designing the spreadsheets and then programming alongside it, you know, for their businesses. And they would pay me 50 pence, £1, £5, that sort of thing. And I realized, wow, I can actually make some money from this. You know, so I quit the paper round. You know, those days it was
you had to run around and do the paper round, yes.
To get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and deliver newspapers to all the houses. So I quit that, and then I started doing this, you know, as my pocket money earner. And then before I realized it, there was one opportunity that came up. That time I was 14 years old. There was this company where it was a nationwide company in the UK where they actually did toys. They sold toys around the Christmas period. And it was basically what they used to call a party. What happened is you're an agent, you hold a party in your house, you sell the toys, you send in your orders to the head office, they get everything together and then dispatch it to all of the people. So they had hired a company to design the software for this, and the company failed.
Wow.
So there was a piece in the local newspapers about what I was doing. So they called me up and said, can you do this? We're about to go live with our Christmas distribution. You've got 2 weeks.
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing. I said, yeah, of course I can do it. I had no clue. So I just stayed up day and night. I was still at school, and I managed to do it. And it was a great success. You know, they ran their company, and at that time, they were doing a turnover of a few £1 million.
Wow.
You know, over that Christmas period. And I think I got paid £5,000.
Wow.
For that job.
At 14?
At 14. And I'd never seen that sort of money. In fact, my father had never seen that sort of money.
From one gig?
Yeah, from one gig. So I remember I bought my dad a car, bought my mum a washing machine, a microwave. That was when microwaves had just been, you know, invented and released onto the market. Bought a washing machine, microwave, cooker, and that sort of thing. And I felt really proud of myself, that I've got this. And my dad used to drive me around with the car to the clients. And then obviously it snowballed from there. You know, when people heard that I'd managed to do that, then there was a lot more press coverage, and a lot more companies then started calling me to develop software for them.
So that's how the whole bug started.
Yeah. That was it.
So would you say that you ended up doing what you do by design, or by nurture, or by nature?
You know, I always ask myself that question. Sometimes I feel like it just happened, but then I was definitely following my passion. You know, for me, when I was behind the computer, you know, I felt like an artist. I was creating something from a blank slate. You know, you're actually creating something that affects a business. It actually helps a business to make money and carry out their operations. So it felt like I'd really achieved something, you know, and it was a really good feeling. And then it also counteracted that inferiority complex I had, because being different from everybody else in school, you know, I felt like I had to try twice as hard as everybody and you know, outperform everyone. So I ended up outshining all of my schoolmates.
And so suddenly you weren't just different, but you were just the bright spark.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of helped build up some confidence. And then, it just kept on growing and growing.
So let's take a trip across the Atlantic. You moved to Ghana, I think, in 97 or
1990.
1990?
Yeah, I was 17 at that
Oh,
time,
wow.
yeah.
So in 1990, you moved into Ghana, and then you started at David Kwamena Bolton School of Computing.
School of Computing, yeah.
I remember the location today in the industrial area.
Right.
And at the time, we were just evolving. Why did you feel that Ghana would be a great place to settle, apart from the family ties?
It was virgin territory, right? And all of a sudden, I didn't feel like I was trying to prove myself to everybody. I felt like I could actually make an impact and improve the lot of everyone within the country. There was virtually no computer literacy at that point. So that was what drove me to open the school in the first place. That I felt if I can teach people and give them a little bit of what I had managed to learn myself, that it could impact, upon the nation. So the school was one thing I was doing. I was also developing software for the first contract I won here was Ghana Civil Aviation, where I wrote the entire software system for the airport. So it managed their payroll, their inventory, flight safety, billing of all the airlines when they landed, took off, and parking and all of that.
Okay.
So that and that was a complete network system within the airport. And it was actually used for, I think, close to 20 years. So I was amazed,
Wow.
when we finished it. And then I actually had the IT manager came and told me, we used that system for, I think, 18 years before they then replaced it with a newer technology. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you trained people, and I think there are a number of people that I know who have gone on to do great things in terms of in the IT space, and did learn under your tutelage.
Right.
Did you envisage at the time the success of what you were doing in setting up and starting the school?
I didn't. At that age, I was 17 or 18 years old, and there's no way you can think so far ahead into the future. So I was just enjoying the moment. I was really into what I was doing at the time. It was great having people coming into the school. You see, the classroom is full of people, and I was actually employing people. At 18 years old, I had a whole staff of teachers, administrators, and so on. And it was a great feeling at the time. But now looking back, I have people today who will say that, I was at your school 25 years back. I was at your school, and now I'm the IT manager of this bank or that organization. So it's a great feeling knowing that I've had that impact on people's lives and careers. Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued by technology, human development, and education. So let's find a nexus for all three. Recently, the UK has changed their curriculum and insisted that children started learning programming from, I think, as early as 5 or 6.
Yes.
Where do you think Ghana needs to relook or look at how we teach technology? In fact, whether we should teach technology and in what form we should?
Well, you see, now technology has infused every aspect of life. You can't do anything now without being on the internet, without having a smartphone. Everything you touch, the car you drive, it's all computer controlled now. Your microwave, your cooker, everything. Everything now has some embedded coding. Which basically determines how the equipment is going to operate. So it's important now that we need to break away from that traditional thinking. It's not about teaching people how to be masons or teaching people home economics. Fine, it's important. But look at where the world is going. If you're not computer literate now, you're not going to find a job. That's the reality of it. You're not going to get a job. Even if you want to be a mechanic now, you have to understand how to diagnose a car's ECU.
Which requires a computer.
Yeah, it requires
literacy.
a computer.
Yeah.
You see the thing. So instead of us just being content with being users, why can't we be the creators of this technology? They're doing it in India. If we look at, fine, we can say, okay, we're a former colony. So are they. You see the thing. But they took a firm decision that they were going to invest into teaching of technology. And they started by, tooling up the universities so that they churn out coders, computer developers, software developers and so on. They just churn out thousands and thousands of them. You see the thing. And if you churn out 1,000 software developers, maybe 100 of them or 10 of them will be the bright sparks. One of them could be a Bill Gates. One of them could be a Steve Jobs. You see the thing. And because they're focusing on doing that and they've put systems in place, they're successful now. If you can't talk about the IT industry without mentioning India now, because everything is being done there.
Well, it's evident even in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
A lot of the top jobs are held by Indians.
Exactly. And why can't we do the same? There's no reason for it, And I think it's a shame that our political system, seems to be, there's this 4-year cycle where, the first year is consolidating your gains. You just come into power, so it's blaming the previous government for all the mistakes they made. Second year, you're trying to actually do something. Third year, you're gearing up for the elections, and the fourth year is just campaigning. So there's no real thought to a long-term strategy. That's a real problem, and we focus too much on petty politics. I would say that if a government comes in and says that we're going to focus on this one thing, whether it's agriculture, whether it's technology, whether it's sanitation, and we're going to focus and get it right.
So at least that would be one thing that we've ticked off and
exactly.
taken off the list.
And you see that things will snowball from there. But you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and nothing is really done properly, and then you backslide because you're focusing on something else. And and we seem to be just treading water. It's unfortunate.
If we got some of these things you talked about right, if you would hazard a projection of what a Ghana that's harnessing the potential of its human capital and technology, paint me a picture of what that would look like if we got that right.
Man, it would be something. It'll be something else. If we can shine in a certain area, you see the thing that it's I don't know. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because there's so much talent. I mean, we run a software company. We've run it for 25 years plus now, SoftTribe. And, the amount of programmers we've had coming in, both from university, those who just sat in their bedrooms and learned coding like I did, and the amount of intellect and creativity that they have. And then you find that 3 or 4, 5 years down the line, they get frustrated because if there's a big contract from government, to implement some software solution, the first place they look to is outside. You see the thing. So the tender will be given to a foreign company when we have the ability to execute it perfectly within.
Incidentally, whilst businesses in Ghana were being overlooked for contracts, SoftTribe was elsewhere across the continent actually doing similar projects.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Sad. I mean, it's sad that we had to look outside our borders when there was so much we could have done. I mentioned the civil aviation contract we did, and look how long the project lasted, the effect of that project. But then when it was replaced by a foreign system.
Wow.
You see the thing. So that's the sad fact that we've actually gone backwards in our thinking.
Because that would have allowed for an upgrade. If you had to go back and rebuild or retool, that meant that you were continuation of the knowledge that you had used in the beginning.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
That's a real shame, if you ask me.
It is. It is.
All right. So we're going to take a break now, and then when we come back, we'll have some more conversations about technology, and then we'll dive into how you decided or found out that you could also do some music.
Sure.
All right. Right. This is the Executive Lounge. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge with me and my guest, David Kwamena Bolton. He's a technical director at Soft Tribe and also founder of DKB Studios, which we'll get into in a moment. And he's just shared insights from starting his own business at age 14 and moving to Ghana and teaching computing and doing stuff as cool as building from the scratch the computer software system that ran the airport for 18 years. I mean, that's a great feat. And yet, you still get overlooked for contracts, and it goes out. But let's, again, look at the technology space. The technology giants that are constantly coming into Ghana looking to settle. And there's been a lot of talk about local businesses or technology companies that have what it takes.
Right.
In the absence of government contracts, could these technology companies grow and have massive footprints like the foreigners who are coming in?
Well, they could grow, but then, you see, our limiting factor in Ghana is our population. You know, so it's always a problem in terms of the private sector. You know, when as Soft Tribe we didn't touch the government sector for, I think, about 15 years from when we started, and we were doing perfectly fine. But you see, if you take, for instance, payroll systems. Now, a multinational company like Guinness or Unilever or so on, they employ a couple of thousand people. You sort of think government employs over 500,000 people. You see, so the discrepancy between what government is doing and what's happening in the private sector is so huge that once you start dealing in the public sector arena, it's you have to tool up in terms of number of staff, in terms of your resources, and so on. So it becomes difficult then going back to only having private sector contracts and so on, because then it means you have to downsize considerably. The game, however, is changing because technology now is becoming mobile based, it's becoming apps and so on. So in terms of software companies now, we're having to change the way we think in the sorts of solutions that we're putting out there. You see, so right now, theoretically, there's no reason why WhatsApp couldn't have been created from Ghana, you see the thing, and made a worldwide phenomenon. The technology is not the limiting factor. However, you know, you need to have an enabling environment.
Okay, and for you, what would that be?
That would be a government basically saying, okay, we are going to invest in the software industry. We are going to encourage new startups. We're going to say that, okay, 50% of all government projects will be given to local companies. We're going to exclude, in the same way that they've excluded petty trading and so on from being handled by foreigners. Why can't we do the same in the software industry? And then that will force, you know, the growth of the industry. There's a huge pool of potential developers out there, you know, and if it's like anything, if I see that, okay, if I work at this for 5 years, I have the potential of earning this amount of money, of being at this place in society, you know, being a respected professional, you know, definitely it's going to grow the industry, but it needs to have, because government is by far the largest spender, they have to, you know, make a firm decision that they are going to invest in the industry.
No, coupled with the fact that, in my opinion, that would also improve the confidence that we have in locally made products.
Exactly that, yes.
No.
Yes.
So when you win tenders outside of Ghana and you're executing these jobs, what are some of the reactions of the people who are giving you the business to do? How do they feel about a Ghanaian company doing work in their neck of the woods?
You know, the funny thing is, in most other African countries, the fact that you're from Ghana, you know, there's a huge amount of respect that comes along with that. You know, sometimes it surprises me. There's a huge amount of respect, particularly in places like Nigeria, Sierra Leone. We do quite a bit of work in Sierra Leone, Liberia. You know, but those sorts of countries, there's a whole lot of respect from being a Ghanaian-based company. You know, more so than
yeah.
It's like the old saying of the prophet not being respected in his hometown. So that's the fact of the matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's dive into music, and I mean, well, before music, let's continue down the trajectory of technology. I've been observing. You post quite a lot of photos and short videos from the bird's eye. You've been flying drones.
Yes.
How did that passion come about?
Well, I've always been in love with aviation, and you know, when I came to Ghana, that was during the PNDC era, and it was actually at that point it was Chairman Rawlings.
That's right.
That invited me to Ghana.
Okay.
And you know, I had the opportunity then to fly around a lot with him, and you know, I actually learned how to fly real aircraft.
Oh wow.
But before that, I was actually building model aircraft, radio-controlled aircraft in the UK. That was my hobby, and then continue that here. And then over the years, the technology, you know, as I say, every area of life, technology has invaded. So even now with drones, you know, drones basically use the similar technology that's used in smartphones now, where you have GPS, you have gyros, so that between the two of those, the drone is able to fly itself to a certain extent. It can hover without you touching the controls. It's all technology doing that. Then you can attach cameras to the drones. You can attach not just ordinary cameras, but infrared cameras, cameras that see different spectrum of light. You know, it's actually possible to use a drone to look at a cornfield, and using a special camera, you can tell the health of that cornfield.
Wow.
So you can actually predict 2 weeks prior to there being a problem in the field.
That's amazing stuff.
And then apply whatever fertilizers or water that's needed to prevent any problem from occurring in that field. You can use the same drones for crop spraying, obviously for surveillance, you know, the fights against galamsey and all of these sorts of things, deforestation. You know, we are limited in terms of our naval capacity. So you can use these relatively inexpensive drones to be patrolling
the coastline.
The coastline. You see, in search of illegal fishing and so on. And because they are transmitting the data back to the operator, you know, you could then target specific areas. You sort of thing. So there's so much that can be done. So we've been doing a lot of research and development in that area over the last few years. And again, putting out proposals to government.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
I was just about to say, I mean, and how's that coming along?
We're still working on it, but you know, again, sometimes the people making the decisions, they're not technical people. So there's a recent case where I think they've gone and bought a number of consumer drones. I think, is it about 150 or 200 consumer drones against the fight for galamsey. Now, these consumer drones can only stay up in the air for 20 minutes at a time. It's the wrong type of aircraft for the application. Whereas we've developed drones that can stay in the air for 4 hours. We have a drone that I could fly from Accra to Cape Coast and back.
Wow.
And still be in contact and be recording everything. You sort of thing.
So the stuff I see you post, you don't, you know, I mean, I bought a small drone recently, flew it once because I lost it, and I had to go and find it. But I mean, the little I know, it suggests that you have to be within a certain distance from the drone to be able to control it. So what you're saying is that you can sit in Accra and send a drone to Cape Coast and back.
Yeah, technically now the technology is available for me to sit in London and fly a drone in Australia. and be in complete contact.
Wow.
You know, so right now the technology is not the limiting factor. It's our minds that's limiting us.
So, did the government know about this before buying those drones?
Well, they know about it.
They know
yes,
about
yes,
your
yes,
solution?
yes.
Okay,
yes,
all right.
yes.
That's interesting. Anyway, well, that's for our audience to make up their mind on what to think. But it's without mincing words, it's appalling. So you've been working on doing quite a lot of research and development in here, and the applications you list is just immense. For me, agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, for the forestation, galamsey. So beyond these, I hear, again, there's another company, I think it's called, not too sure what but they deliver medical supplies. Would you have been able to do that with your?
Yes. It was actually part of our proposal that we put forward. You know, there are cases where, for instance, if let's say you need to run blood tests, you know, in rural areas, you could actually put the samples in the drone, and these drones can be flown autonomously, and it could be flown to the nearest medical center, have the results, you know, the lab tests done there and then, instead of having a motorbike, you know, traverse, and then by the time it gets to the sample is degraded, and you can't get a proper test result. You know, there are actually, and the funny thing is, there are actually foreign companies operating drones in Ghana. There was one, a UN funded operation where they used drones to deliver condoms in the north of Ghana.
Wow.
Is it a thing? So the drones were flying over and then dropping condoms it's in villages in Ghana, and it's something we can do. I mean, there's you know, as I say, the technical expertise is within the country.
What has kept you optimistic? Because I know people move to Ghana, do business for a while, get frustrated, and then they pack their bags and go.
Yeah.
I read an account recently of somebody who had left the country as a child, done a PhD, came back home, and had been frustrated to the point where they just left.
Yeah.
How do you keep going?
I have a lot of friends who have done the same. I must admit, I did it myself. You know, at one point, I think, as I say, I came to Ghana in 1990. Around 97, you know, I got so frustrated because things were just, you know, simple things that shouldn't even require a second thought were not happening. So I said, no, I felt like I was wasting my life.
That's a period in which your friend was president.
Yeah.
And that didn't even matter.
Unfortunately not.
Wow.
Unfortunately not. You know, and
I mean, it shouldn't, but so that was the period in which you left.
Yeah, I actually went to him and told him, and you know, I had to get his blessing because, you know, he had asked me to stay on, and that's when you realize that the president alone is not all powerful. You know, even when it's even when they started off as a dictator, if you like, you know, that it's the system, you know, and if the system cannot be changed by one person, it requires a cultural change. You know, we have to change our mindsets, and unfortunately, it's not happening. You know, it's a shame where you still get stopped by the police and, you know, and asked for money. You know, it's so disheartening. And, you know, I get a lot of people from outside coming in to visit me, and it's embarrassing. You know, if you have someone from America, you're taking them around town, and then you get stopped by a policeman, and the first thing is, oh, it's Friday, you know, we day for you. It's your job. You're getting paid to protect us. You sort of think. So that idea that if I don't give you something extra, you're not going to protect me, then it makes you feel very unsafe. You know, and it's very embarrassing when you have foreigners because they've obviously heard about this sort of stuff. It's embarrassing when it gets confirmed. You know, so we need a complete change. We should be proud as Ghanaians. We should be proud of ourselves that I'm a policeman. I'm probably one of the most respected members of society. Everybody should look up to me. I shouldn't demand respect. I should command it, because I know that if there's a problem, I'm the person who's going to solve it. by following the rules. You sort of thing. And unfortunately, it's a cultural thing. I happen to be a chief and I was the chief of the late Professor Atta Mills, Ikumfi.
Okay.
I was installed again when I was 17 years old. And you realize that it's so pervasive that it's ingrained in us as Ghanaians that you have to look up to one big man to provide everything for you. You sort of thing. Instead of looking at how do we work together to uplift our whole community. And it's a fight I'm constantly having with my people.
Mm-hmm.
That look, let's think of what we can do. Let's not think about what Nana is going to do when he comes to the village, and what food or what money he's going to bring. No, because you'll forever be in that same hole. Climb out of the hole. Be proud of what you can do for yourself.
How do we create that mind shift?
It has to come by one enforcing. Look, we have all the laws there. All the laws are there. It has to come by enforcing those laws, and making sure that the right thing is done. And unfortunately, we have this habit in Ghana of turning everything into a joke. You see, if you look at this whole football scandal, I'm not a fan of football, but it's something that I think the whole world has heard about. And all you realize is that everybody's making jokes about Nyantachi and so on. It was a very serious matter, a very, very serious matter. And we shouldn't be joking about these things, because the moment you turn it into a joke, it diffuses the anger, diffuses the pressure to make a change. So I think we need to start taking ourselves seriously in this country.
Okay. What else?
And then also realize that Rome was not built in a day. Right.
You think that we're impatient?
Yes, we are.
Could that be because maybe we see other people maybe climbing fast and we're wondering? I mean, one example that comes to mind is Rwanda. We all sat here, we watched CNN, and we're appalled by the genocide. And so they've gone into the abyss, they've climbed out, and they're shining.
They're shining, but it didn't take 1 year or 5 years.
Okay.
You see that there was maybe for them, the genocide was a terrible, terrible thing, but I think it also reset the minds of everybody. That look, this is how bad it was. We almost lost the country, and then it took that horrible, horrific experience to change the way everybody thought, and said, no, we can do things better. We don't want to repeat this ever again. And if you see what's happening now, you have the Volkswagen plant that's just been opened there. In fact, in terms of drone development, that's one of the most advanced countries in the world. They've opened their doors to drone development. So they're already using drones to deliver blood and medical supplies and all sorts of things. It's amazing what they're doing, and we can do it. There's no reason why not. Absolutely.
All right, now let's jump into music. So, is this a midlife crisis, or something that you've always wanted to do?
No, I've actually been in music in fact, as long as I've been into IT, I've been into music. I was actually a music student in school.
Right.
I was trained in violin, and I played in my orchestra in school. And so music has always been part of me. And then even if you look at some pictures I have way back when I was about 12 or 13, I had my computer and I had my keyboard.
Right.
So and that fusion of technology and music has been going on for a long time. So I had my first studio when I came to Ghana. I came along with a studio.
Okay.
Sort of thing. And back in 1992, I actually performed on set with Public Enemy, Stevie Wonder, Dionne Warwick, and so on when we had Panafest.
That's right.
So I've always been into music, but it's something that's it's kind of been in and out.
In and out.
Yeah, but it's always been my passion.
Right.
It's always been my passion, and now more than ever, technology basically is driving music forward. Right now, if you looked at a studio we had back in 2000 when we were producing albums for Abrafo, VIP, Abriwanana, KK Fosu, all these people. Our studio was full of racks and racks of hardware. Now that same studio, in fact, a better studio is just one PC, with software, and you just got one microphone, you got the PC and some speakers, what we call monitors, and you can produce better work now than you could then. So long as you use the right theory behind it. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And you have a single out.
Yeah.
What inspired? I think it's called "Leave My Heart on the Ground."
On the floor.
That's right.
Leave My Heart on the floor.
That's right.
Yeah, it's we've set up the studio again, and with state-of-the-art equipment, and basically I wanted to show what could be done. So I'm working on an album. So we put out a single. It's a reggae lovers rock tune.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not trying to compete with the Kwame Eugenes of the world. Trying to make some more matured music that people of our generation can relate to, and then show that making music is an art form, but there's also an education that has to be obtained. You can't just get up and start rapping and singing and call yourself a musician. If you look at the greats like our Kojo entries and Abrantiers and so on, if you play their tracks today, they still sound wonderful. Yeah. You can still dance to them. They can play live and they sound just as good as they do on the record. But that's not happening with the new crop of musicians because they don't have that theoretical, training. And that's something that we want to try and, in the same way when I started the computer school, I want to do the same thing with music as well. Right. So that we can bring our musicians up and push them out there. Why can't we have another Osubi-san?
Good question. Nothing should stop us. Right, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that David is involved in and the lessons that he's learned along the way so far. Stay tuned and don't go away. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge. We're in our final segment of the show, and we've learned so much from my guest, David Kwamena Bolton. David, just before we went on that break, you talked about, that you were schooled, you were trained, you learned. Formally, you had to play the violin, played in the school orchestra.
Yeah.
Is there a need for us to revisit having music in our curriculum? Because it no longer is taught in a lot of schools. Yeah,
and I find it extremely sad that, music is something that I think everybody listens to. It's wherever you go, there's music being played and so on. But musicians, shall I say, there's a lack of respect for musicians, which shouldn't be the case, because look, culturally, music is part of us. If you go to any state function, you'll see that. You have the traditional dancers and drummers there playing. Sometimes we have our live bands and so on playing. They didn't just get up and start playing the guitar or learning playing the drums instantly. It took years and years of practice. And there's a theory behind it. So if we don't teach that in the schools, and then we start complaining that the live band scene is dead. Of course it's dead. How do you expect people to just pop up, and understand how to create music and how to play live music and so on? And the same thing even applies now to studio-based music. If you don't understand the fundamentals, you're just going to do what you feel is good, and I don't want to mention any names of the new artists, but you see that a song is put out today, in 6 months' time is dead. Nobody wants to listen to it again because, fine, maybe there was a great dance.
In some cases, 6 months is too far.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Yeah, that's it. They have a great dance that goes along with it and so on. So everybody gets vibed up, and again, then it becomes like a joke, kind of situation. Look at the one corner.
Yeah, thing, so that's That was a phase, and then until the next one.
Yeah, yeah.
But so in essence, if we're missing out on the fundamentals, we will only have flash in the pan, and not something that's sustained over a long period.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a certain school of thought that there's an over-reliance, or more a shift, on a lean on technology for music. At what point do you think, how do we get the optimum balance between the skill of music and the use of technology to push it?
You see, the thing is, technology changes everything. I mean, we used to ride bicycles before cars were invented. You know, we used to travel on ships for months at a time to get to around the world. Now we can jump on a plane and be there in a matter of 8 hours. You can be halfway around the world. However, you know, it's this issue of being a user or being a creator, right? Fine, you can buy a home studio and just do whatever you want to do. You can buy a computer and use it for Googling, Facebook, Instagram. You post your selfies and so on. You're just a user. You're not creating anything of value. You see the thing, and you post a picture on Instagram. You get 100 likes or 10,000 likes, and you feel like you've achieved something. A week down the road, nobody cares that you posted that picture. You know, but who created Instagram? Whoever's created it now, they're worth billions of dollars. You see the thing? Because they've created a platform that millions, if not billions of people use. So why can't we be the creators of these things? What's stopping us? You see the thing? And it's basically this. We have a short attention span. That's the problem. You know, if you look at the average young person now, if you just look at their smartphone usage, how many times, if you look at this, compare how long they spend on Google researching something as opposed to how long they spend on Instagram or Facebook. You know, I spend a lot of time on YouTube learning new things. It could be anything. It could be about cookery, it could be about studio work, it could be about technology, you know, and finding out how things are done, so that I have a basic understanding of, you know, whatever interests me. You know, instead of just getting up and watching music videos, scrolling through my Instagram, liking 100 pictures, and then going on Facebook, watching some people's status posts, you know, I'm not feeling happy. I don't care that you're not happy. I care that you've created something that I can buy that's going to impact upon my life. You see the thing? And we need to be creators. We have to stop just being users.
So, share with me maybe one key lesson that, if you look back at your life, that has kept you going, that we ought to hold on to as young people today. I mean, looking back from when you first developed that software at age 14 and all of that, up until date, what one key lesson do you think we ought to hold on to?
Persistence and determination. And don't think about the money alone. You see the thing? Think about, do something that drives you, that you're passionate about, something that you think is going to be useful to other people. Even if it's a small group of people, you find that, you know, I have this idea. I can create whatever it is. It doesn't have to be software. It could be a tool. It could be a new recipe. It could be anything, whatever it is that is going to impact upon people's lives, and then spend time to perfect it. And there's no perfection in this world, but there's the pursuit of perfection, right? And in that pursuit of perfection, you are always stepping higher and higher and higher, you know, one step at a time. Sometimes you'll find that there's a huge breakthrough, and that's when you become world famous. You see the thing, that something, you know, you've done something, and then that's when you get all the accolades and hopefully the money and something that can sustain you for the rest of your days on the earth. So it's about being consistent, being persistent, and being disciplined, you know, and focus on something.
So, as you said, Rome wasn't built in a day. So the money
Exactly.
will come, but
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the first thing you look at.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Fantastic. Well, David, thank you so much.
Thank you
And
too.
it's been an awesome conversation. And we're grateful that you shared your experiences with us.
Great. Thanks. Thanks.
So I have 5 lessons I'm taking away from this. Number 1 is that practice indeed makes perfect, or it pays off, really. That if you would look at David earning £5,000 from his first major gig at age 14, it's easy to think that he came by that money from one project. But that project had been in the making since age 9 when he had his first computer. And so it takes time to be great at something. And if you're looking for value in life, you don't walk around thinking that your first job will build you a house. It's going to take a while to be able to make that money that makes all of that breakthrough happen for you. And what that means is you keep working at it. Number 2 is that you should become a creator, not just a consumer. Produce something. It's okay for all of us to consume the things that other people have produced, but imagine that if you also produce something of value that other people consumed, then you increase the overall productivity of the community or the environment within which you live, and you add value to other people's lives. Number 4 is dedication. It takes dedication to sit behind a computer all by yourself, teach yourself how to code, and eventually teach other people how to code and build software programs that sustain critical installations like an airport. And so you must remain disciplined if you want to be successful in life. Number 4 is that don't be afraid to go beyond your own borders. If no one respects what you do here at home, look for a place where it's going to be accepted. Keep looking. You'll find it. And when you do, you'll be respected at home too. And the final thing is from the concept that drone technology can be used for several different things, I think you should constantly ask yourself, what else? What else can this thing I have do? What else can I do with this skill that I have? What else can this product achieve? What else can you do with this life that you have? It's been fantastic having you watch the Executive Lounge. And thank you, David, once again for joining us. My guest has been David Kwamena Bolton. He's a technical director at SoftDrive and founder of DKB Studios and an all-round cool guy. Thank you for watching. Thanks to the crew and our friends at Villa Monticello. I'd like to say adios. Until the next time, go forward, make rain. Shalom.